All right, folks, welcome back to Mike and Maurice's Mind Escape. We have episode number 204 today, or tonight, I should say. We're going to be discussing the UAP report and news. Before we get started here, everybody head on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/mindescapepodcast. For just $2 a month, you'll get exclusive guest episodes and segments. We do have a bunch of stuff up there, so if you listen to our show, there's a bunch of other content that's not on YouTube or any of the audio platforms, so go check that out. And head on over to indrasweb.org. This is a social media platform we created to connect open minds. So no matter what the topic, whether it's metaphysics or metaphysical things, it's the perfect platform to discuss that kind of stuff, whether it's a hypothesis, theory, speculation. Head on over there and sign up for an account. So before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to everybody who's been sending me messages. The reason why we haven't done our show for about a month now, wasn't a hiatus that we chose. I actually have had some severe back pain that I've been to a bunch of doctors, and hopefully we're on the right track. They think it's inflammation. They don't know exactly what it is, but we've had some super nice people reach out and send me some nice messages. Shout out to Sandy and Sean and Cole and everybody on our Discord. So thank you for that. And we're going to try and get back to business here. And sorry for the delay, but sometimes your health is the most important thing. So
it's not sometimes, it always is.
Yeah, exactly. So here we are. So since we've had our break, the UAP report has come out, and anybody that listens to our show or people on UFO Twitter, I'm sure a lot of you that are paying attention have already gone through it or heard other podcasts or listened to people talk about it, or you've been on UFO Twitter discussing it. But I kind of wanted to go through a little bit of it and give a more philosophical point of view on what's going on and kind of go through it that way. Have you read any of it, Maurice, or have you been paying attention, or not really?
Nah, not too much. I remember when it came out a couple weeks ago, didn't it?
Yeah.
I saw a couple things here or there, but nothing too severe.
Yeah. So when it came out, there's a lot of people that were disappointed in what was in it. They felt like there was a lot of stuff lacking. And
actually, I'm remembering now. Wasn't it a couple of pages? Everybody thought it was going to be a long.
It's
report.
It's 9 pages. Well, here's the thing. It's 9 pages. The part that they released that's declassified, and then there's, I guess, 79 or 80 pages that are classified that they didn't release. So. I don't really know. Obviously, I don't know if anybody does what's on the classified, but I know a lot of people were expecting like more new videos or pictures or information that, so I think that's what a lot of people were let down by. But in terms of like going through the report, I actually read the whole thing. It's not really that long. Like you said, it's only 9 pages. It kind of stood out to me as like kind of interesting from like an epistemological standpoint, in the sense that they're saying there are these things, they don't know what they are, they're there, let's create, this task force and try and figure out what's going on. Are these adversaries? Is this atmospheric phenomena? Is this, extraterrestrial? Like, what's going on? Like, let's figure this out. So from reading it, I kind of got a vibe. It's like, I like that this didn't draw any conclusions. It kind of left a lot to be interpreted, and that might rub some people the wrong way. But it's like, if you're truly trying to understand what this is or what's going on, I don't think you can, start from the end point of saying that this is for sure aliens. Whatever that, that whole thing is. So
right.
I like that they took this approach, and it's kind of new, in the sense that like they're talking about it openly. Obviously for 60, 70 years, it's been something that was either taboo or people just didn't talk about it. And if you did talk about it, you were crazy, kind of a thing. So they've kind of brought it to the forefront now, where it's like, okay, we have military people who have been seeing these things. We have radar, we have, these sensor data, all this kind of stuff. And, So I mean, but back to, so you have two different, people. You have the people that were really pleased with it and the people that weren't really pleased. Very few people did I see was like, oh, it's okay, you know, kind of like in the middle. But I think the people that were disappointed were people that are either on UFO Twitter all day, you know, they know all the new stuff, they know all the new podcasts, they know all the new reports and releases, and you know, this guy said this and that guy said this and all that kind of stuff. So those people were kind of let down. And then you have the people who liked it, who are saying, well, this is a big step forward. People, this is our own government discussing that this is a real possibility and we don't know what it is, kind of a thing. So, I mean, where I find myself is probably with the, again, I like it because it's from like an epistemological lens. They're not saying for sure it's one thing or the other. They're just saying, here's the data, here's what we know. And, you know, even if they know more or they know some crazier things, it doesn't sound like they're just jumping to conclusions based off that either. And, you know, from what I've seen. So, yeah, so I think I liked it from that standpoint. I don't like the speculation stuff or the people that are like, you know, we for sure have this or for sure have that, or like, how do you know that? Like somebody said something, somebody said it on a podcast, you know, like show us something. And if you can't show us something, then who, you know, what's the point of even talking about it? Because you're not going to be able to prove it. So,
Right.
let's look at page one is literally just a cover page. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Page 2 is where everything kind of starts. It's called Scope and Assumptions. And it just goes through, again, kind of the basic stuff, how, you know, the task force was created in 2021, and the Department of Defense and the, you know, the task force has made, is looking into it from like a potential threat, or just trying to figure out what's going on. This is also so they could present this to like policymakers and politicians and stuff like that. Let's see here. So they, you know, it says they consulted with, you know, the ODNI. So it says the UAP task force and the ODNI, National Intelligence Manager for Aviation, drafted this report. And it says input was taken from the USD, the DIA, the FBI, the NRO, the NGA, the NSA, the Air Force, Army, Navy Office, the Office of Navy Intelligence, DARPA, FAA, NOAA, NGA. So basically all the intelligence collecting organizations that we have within our government. So my whole thing is they obviously went through this pretty thoroughly, because if you're consulting, and I guess the other thing is I mean, who knows exactly what kind of data those different organizations within our government actually have, and then how long have they been collecting it, and how long have they been taking it seriously. That would be what I would be interested in terms of them reaching out to all those different organizations. So, you know, how long, most people point to like the Air Force or the Navy as having a lot of information. You know, some people, you see like a lot of people when they talk about this stuff, they talk about like the CIA and stuff. And I've heard a lot of CIA people talk about how that's not really in the wheelhouse of like what they're doing. I'm not saying there hasn't been anything at any point, but I'm just saying in terms of who's got the information, who's got the data, it seems like it's more of like an Air Force, Navy, Army type of a thing. And I'm sure a lot of other private companies probably have data too. But yeah, so I mean, they definitely at least have said in this report that they've reached out and got input from all these different organizations. Again, does one have more information, or has one been collecting information longer? We're just starting to take this seriously now from like a policy standpoint and like a government standpoint. So who knows what's been lost to time or turnover in government and stuff like that. I mean, makes you wonder.
Yeah.
So, and then that's page 2. Page 3 goes into like the executive summary, which is the limit of, basically it's talking about like how there's a limited amount of high quality reporting on unidentified aerial phenomenon. and it hampers the ability to draw from, absolute conclusions or scientific conclusions. It's almost like in the nature of the UAP is basically what it's saying. So the nature of this thing is to be evasive, basically. So as a result, it says the UAPTF, which is the UAP task force, has concentrated its review on reports that occurred between 2004 and 2021, the majority of which are as a result of a new tailored process to better capture UAP events through formalized reporting. So 2004, that's when I think the Tic Tac encounter occurred in November. So since then, this has been kind of a more of a data collecting and paying more attention to sensory data and probably more FLIR footage and that kind of stuff. So I mean, again, how far does this go back? Was technology just not up to par back then to kind of even look at this objectively? I don't know. Let's see here. Most of the UAP reported probably do represent physical objects, given that a majority of UAP were registered across multiple sensors to include radar, infrared, electro-optical, weapon seekers, and visual observation. So they're saying, because there's a lot of people will say, oh, it's consciousness based, and maybe it's non-physical or interdimensional. And this report's saying that all the data they have points to it being probably most likely more physical. But as I've pointed out many times before, we don't even know what consciousness is, and every single thing in the universe that we can observe is filtered through our consciousness. So I think that that's probably a little bit more bigger picture than, they're willing to go at this point. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's anything wrong with the conversation of stuff being physical and non-physical either. Like, we are all just energy, vibrations, data, so that's a whole different discussion, though. I mean, it's something that we've talked about a lot of times on this podcast before, too. So, okay. A limited number of incidences, UAP reportedly appeared to exhibit usual or unusual flight characteristics. These observations could be a result of sensor errors, spoofing, or observer misperception and require additional analysis. So this is saying that maybe some of them, there's sensory data that's flawed, or maybe there's, I don't know, maybe there's some issue with something or something malfunction, but I don't see that happen. I think that somewhere in the report it says that out of the 144 cases of anomalous, technology doing crazy things, I think that they can only rule one out of that. So like 143 out of 144 did exhibit technology that is beyond our capabilities, at least to the observer.
That's pretty good.
And there's sensory data for some of those too. So, let's see here. It says there are probably multiple types of UAP requiring different explorations based on the range of appearances and behaviors described in the available reporting. Our analysis of the data supports the construct that if and when the individual UAP incidences are solved or resolved, they will fall into one of 5 potentially explanatory categories: airborne clutter, natural atmospheric phenomena, USG or United States Industry Development Programs, foreign adversary programs, and then a random, So, I mean, they're saying that if they can solve this or figure things out, that it's most likely going to fall into like something we know, which would be debris, atmospheric phenomena, something that we've created, something another country's created. So that's just merely saying that if something can be figured out, maybe it's like that. But then again, 143 out of the 144 were not so easily figured out. So it says UAP clearly pose a safety or flight issue that may pose a challenge to the U.S. national security. there's safety concerns, obviously, for aviators, and so I mean, what it comes down to is there's things flying in our airspace.
Yeah, they're warning people. So
We don't know what it is. What is it? And at very least, if it's not extraterrestrial or it's not something atmospheric, we need to figure out what it is from the sense of national security. So, let's see.
yeah, but
here.
isn't there a possibility it's just something that we just don't know about within our own confines?
Well, it could be, but what does that even mean? Like, so again, I pointed.
It's a privately owned.
Oh, you're
company.
saying, yeah. Well, I mean, it could be that, but I mean,
don't you think that's the best?
Well, here's the thing: those companies contract to give the stuff to our country. Like that's what we use to, that's who creates all these different new planes and new technology. Like that's where that comes from. So it's like, why wouldn't they give us the best stuff? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, I hear a lot of people make that argument, and maybe they do have stuff beyond They do have. I mean, we know they have stuff way beyond years, but I mean, some of the technology it sounds like that people are seeing, and I've seen weird stuff too. It's beyond 10, 20, 30 years. So I would say that maybe that point to that as being a little bit of a debate section right there. Let's see here. Page 4, available reporting largely inconclusive. So they're saying that there's limited data and reporting, and there's all these instances with Air Force people, pilots, Navy people, and there's just not like a ton other than like some of the sensory stuff, some of the radar stuff, eyewitness accounts and stuff like. There's just not like a ton. It's not like they have sensor tests set up like you would, like maybe scientists would do for an experiment, and I think that they probably need to do something.
Yeah, I was going to say they should start implementing some of this stuff.
Yeah.
They have the resources. Why not use them?
When we had Avi Loeb on, I said that. I'm like, why don't you, like, we need somebody to reach out and like do that. Even if it's like, if you're looking into the vastness of the universe and you're looking at how large the universe is and when it started and all that, if you're going to take time and spend money on that, that's awesome. I love that. But why, if there's this weird thing going on here, let's spend a little bit more of those resources and figure that out first, and then we can move on to some of the deeper space stuff, in my opinion. And you only need a few people, big scientists, and then probably some people collecting data. I don't think you need like some large, team or something like that. But let's see here. It says that all the reports involved, with witnesses firsthand, whether they be military, aviators, or Navy people, like whoever it was, are considered to be reliable. And these reports describe instances, again, that occurred between 2004 and 2021. And a majority of them happened within the last 2 years because of new reporting mechanisms. And they've eased off on like making it kind of a joke in the military. So you have probably more military people stepping forward, feeling like they can talk about it. So this is the part. Yeah. So 144 reports originated from the United States government sources. Of these, 80 reports involved observations with multiple sensors. Most reports described UAP as objects that interrupted pre-planned training or other military activity. Let's see here. I mean, that's an interesting one too, because it's like, why does it happen when they're doing military activity? Like, why when they're doing exercises? Is it happening regardless of those exercises, and it just happens to be that's how they observe them? Or are they bringing the weirdness to the exercises? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's just something to think about, It's
that's why I think a lot of people are upset, because they release some information, but they really didn't get down to the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
Which maybe they have information, maybe they don't, but
says UAP collection challenges. So this says, again, what we were talking about, sociocultural stigmas, censor limitations remain obstacles for collecting data on UAP. Although some technical challenges, such as how to appropriately filter out radar and clutter and ensure the safety of flight or flight for military and civilian aircraft, are long withstanding in the aviation community, while others are unique to the UAP problem set. Let's see here. So it says narratives from aviators in the operational community and analysts from the military and IC describe disparagement associated with observing UAP, reporting it, or attempting to discuss it with colleagues. Although the effects of these stigmas have lessened as senior members of the scientific, policy, military, and intelligence communities engage and take these topics seriously. Reputational risk may keep many observers silent, complicating the scientific pursuit of these topics. So, I mean, we've had Lee on, our buddy Lee Adams, and he was stationed on the USS Nimitz. He wasn't there for the incident, but he was stationed there later on. And then he had his own sighting later on at a base in Virginia. But
jellyfish incident.
Yeah. But so he talks about when we had him on talking about this, the USS Nimitz and the culture on these carriers and stuff like that. He was saying that like everybody just kind of believed. I mean, I'm sure you had some skeptical people, but he said a lot of the people just like, yeah, what else is new kind of a thing. So it's obvious that these things are common and they're just taken as, oh, it's probably some new technology or whatever. Like there's not a whole lot of questioning going on, but that's probably because of the culture that's been kind of implemented, like a, let's not talk about this because you're crazy if you do or don't, like let's talk about it, but just joking around and don't.
Or you don't think that there's like an underlying they know about it, so they just don't talk about it, like it's already kind of in the know?
I mean, I don't think military people know about it. Like at your average military person, maybe people that are higher up, like generals or something, might have some sort of knowledge, but.
Because I was talking to my girlfriend. She's a flight attendant and stuff, and she said that the pilots would see stuff all the time. So I'm just curious if maybe they, if it's just like, oh, there's another one of those things. We see these all the time.
Well, I know pilots do see a lot of weird stuff. There was a couple recently that happened within the last year that were kind of weird that they reported. And I know for a while, I don't know if it's still going on, but if a pilot saw something weird in the sky, they were supposed to report it to like, Robert Bigelow or, Bigelow. I don't know if we've talked about them.
Yeah.
He owns an aerospace
absolutely.
company. That's definitely something that's talked about. But again, like what are they going to do about it? They're flying a commercial jet. It's not like they're going to, I mean, I don't know if they can collect data like that or anything.
I'm just curious if you're in the military and you're on a boat or something like that, you might see stuff all the time. So it's just like it's more of a hassle
right.
It's just kind of expected.
Yeah,
that's my thought on it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, it's just one of these weird things that happens. So this also says the sensors mounted on the USS military platforms are typically designed to fulfill specific missions. As a result, those sensors are not generally suited for identifying UAP. So again, we need to get better scientific equipment out there that are going to look for, are these looking for electromagnetic? Everybody thinks that these are gravity propulsion or gravity crafts or something like that. So let's get some electromagnetic sensory data going, or something like you have to like think about how is this could be doing this, and then based off of that, what could we use to try and collect that data?
Right.
And I don't think a lot of people think about it like that. I think they just think that, oh, we have the infrared radar or with night vision or what, and like that's just good enough. But I don't think that is, because if these things are coming in and out of spectrums, whatever it is, it could be something happening, even something atmospheric. I believe there's definitely life out there. Out of all the possibilities in the universe, there's definitely life out there. Do I think it's visiting here? I think it's possible. I always keep my mind open to that. And I've seen weird stuff. I saw a weird orb with my dad last year. and thought that it was a very bizarre event. And do I think that there's stuff beyond our capabilities flying in our skies? Yeah, I do. Do I think it's necessarily aliens visiting us or whatever? I don't know. I don't. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to have the answers of some sort of secret knowledge. All I know is on our podcast a million times we've talked about the weird experiences, from having psychedelic experiences and conscious, like meditating and having weird experiences, or lucid dreaming, and a lot of these involving UAP, UFO, gray archetypes and stuff like that. So again, weird stuff happens. I've experienced it, but I'm not going to sit here and say for sure there's things flying here from a different planet or galaxy or dimension. I think that it's definitely something to be speculated about for sure, but I don't like putting all my eggs in any basket. I just like looking at all the information and always evolving my idea of what's going on.
Right.
It says sensor vantage points and numbers of sensors concurrently observing an object play substantial roles in distinguishing UAP from known objects and determining whether a UAP demonstrates breakthrough aerospace capabilities. Optical sensors have the benefit of providing some insight into into the relative size, shape, and structure. Radio frequency sensors provide more accurate velocity and range information. So they're telling you kind of what they have or what they use and what it can pick up, kind of a thing. So, all right. Let's see here. Page 5. So this is about potential patterns and how they do emerge. So although there was a wide variability in the reports and the data set is currently too limited to allow for detailed trend or pattern analysis, there was some clustering of UAP observations regarding size, shape, and particularly propulsion. UAP sightings also tend to cluster around U.S. Training and testing grounds, but we assess that this may result from a collection bias as a result of focused attention, greater numbers of latest generation sensors operating in those areas, unit expectations, and guidance to report anomalies. So this is something I think about a lot. Like, I know there's sightings in other countries, there's big events that have happened in other countries. It just doesn't it seem like most of this stuff is just happening in like the US? Maybe, I know there's some stuff on the East Coast, but just mainly like the West Coast and desert area from like Nevada to the coast of California and like into the water area. It seems like where most of this stuff's happening. Obviously, again, big sightings in Chicago, big sightings East Coast, but most of this stuff to me appears to be happening in that region. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like that, but again, we're kind of square put into that zone, so
right.
We hear more about it here. So.
And the other question is that the case though too, because there is more military bases or training going on out there. There is the desert. There's a lot of stuff out there military wise. Is it happening out there because there's so much room and less people, and that's where a lot of that stuff happens? I don't know, but it just appears to me like aside from your occasional Rendlesham Forest or Brussels, whatever, the Belgium site, like whatever these other ones are, they don't seem to be happening as frequently as a lot of the stuff in the U.S. Again, is it because we're paying attention more, or we have the better technology, or we just have more people doing more of that stuff in general? I don't know.
Yeah, there's more people that are trying to create a stir.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what you would think the percentage of actual valid accounts are. Before there was a lot of nuts associated with the whole concepts. Obviously, more.
I mean, there still
more
are.
Information.
There's still
right.
nuts.
Well, I'm not saying that, but a lot of the information's coming out, and there's a lot more credible people that are talking about this thing. So it's bringing a lot more validity to the whole situation. But at the same time, these people it's like this. It's kind of like the Bigfoot thing. Where these sightings are happening. The people out there are just a little bit off, if you will. To some degree.
Right. B
I want to be
Gidget
careful.
just says people don't give credibility to non-military encounters. I kind of agree with that. I feel like non-military encounters, you do well. Here's the problem with that though, because there are a lot of crazy people that just make stuff up too. So
Right.
it's like we're kind of our own worst enemy. And this, I mean, this goes for like not just the UFO topic. It goes for like a lot of different things. All the stuff we cover on our podcast is all mystery based or fringe based. You know, it's all like things that can't be proven or disproven. So it's like when you go into any of those topics, there are always going to be like charlatan type people that take advantage of other people or want to make money or whatever. I mean, let's face it, this UAP UFO topic is super hot right now. Like there's people making money since the last year. There's been probably 10 podcasts I've seen just pop up on UFO Twitter alone that people just like, oh, and I always support people being creative and whatever. But when you just start doing something like that, you have to be like, you have to take it seriously, like you gotta have fun, whatever. But at the same time, it's like, do your homework. And there's a lot of people not doing their homework. And I can't listen to this, whether the sound quality is terrible or the people don't know what they're talking about or they have like no basis for what's going on. It's like, again, there's money to be made. And I see people being like shaped and molded. And, there's a lot of people, you see these like different, sets on UFO Twitter where people will defend certain people and not others, and there's these little groups and little things forming where it's like, oh, we don't like this group because they think this and these people think that, and it's just one of these weird things that's happening where it's like these people are not even like, we don't even know what this thing is, and these people are already like taking sides and like defending each other against other people. It's like, what are you doing right now? Like, you're completely speculating and you have no idea what you're talking about. So
Well, that's the nature, is the divide and argue,
yeah.
unfortunately.
And look, I'm not here to pontificate either, because when we started this podcast, I was in the same boat. I just believe stuff, like, oh, that's crazy, let me read more about that. And like when you're in an echo chamber and you're only reading mystical things or metaphysical things and you're not balancing it out with reality, you're like what we know scientifically, I think you're putting yourself in a bad position. Now I don't know we don't know everything, obviously, like scientifically. Like that's the whole thing. Like science is always an evolving thing, but at the same time, I don't know. At the same time, it just seems like people love speculating. I mean, the same thing goes with like religion. It's like, do you know how the Bible was written? Do you know how many people wrote it? Do you know that the origins of kind of Christianity kind of came from Plato? And then it gets into Neoplatonism, and then, it's this like evolution of things. So it's like most people
no one wants to do the due diligence.
But most people that believe these crazy things, like a Zeus looking character sitting on a cloud in the sky playing chess with us, they don't even understand how that idea even got there to begin with. They just believe it. And I think that same goes with this kind of stuff too. It's like, if you don't have that balance, you're just willing to believe crazy stuff. And on top of that, you have other people that are either kind of in the know or have a position of authority that tell certain people things. I'm not saying it's intentional disinfo or anything like that, but you do have people telling people things where they don't even know if it's true, but they're saying for sure it's true. So
right.
So you have a lot of that. Look, again, we're human beings. We have all these different biases. We did that whole episode on cognitive bias, confirmation bias. There's the Dunning-Kruger effect. Like, we have all these like cognitive issues, and memory's super flawed. So I'm not here to like whatever, rag on people. I'm just saying, like, if I'm actively taking a role to at least be aware of my biases and like take a philosophical, you can look at things with Occam's razor and not believe the easiest outcome every time, but you can use it as a tool. You can use philosophy as a tool. You can use science as a tool. You can use all these things, and they're all great and wonderful. And I think that you should have at least some knowledge on those things when you're discussing stuff like this, because I don't necessarily even think that this is when people think about UFO, they just think UFO or alien or a gray alien or it's in the craft. They're not thinking von Neumann probes. They're not thinking AI from other galaxies that got here. They're not thinking. Some people do, but most of the time, people think about this as like its own thing. It's either nuts and bolts or it's just this alien thing. And I look at it from more of like a big picture standpoint, which would be like the big picture in terms of like all these things kind of coming together that makes us what we are and at least gives us some answers. So I think that that's how to look at these things. I'm not, like I said, I don't have all the answers, but I think that you have to at least take a more analytical approach and not just believe people at their word. So
Absolutely.
So on this part it says UAP probably lack a single explanation. The UAP documented in this limited data set demonstrate an array of aerial behaviors, reinforcing the possibility there are multiple types of UAP requiring different explanations. Our analysis of the data supports the construct that if and when individual UAP incidents are resolved, they will... Okay, so we already talked about that one, how it falls into the different categories, whether it be airborne clutter, or deflating balloon, that kind of stuff. It also talks about... So this is funny after... I wonder if they looked into Mick West stuff, because these objects include birds, balloons, recreational unmanned aerial vehicles, or airborne debris like plastic bags.
I mean, you can't tell the difference between those, though. That's the...
Well, I mean, like, if you're at a high altitude and you're like a fighter pilot, like how would you, like, is a plastic bag even make a difference? Like, I don't know.
That's what first of all, how is a plastic bag getting that high?
Well, you look at like the gimbal video too. How could something stay in that amount of wind resistance if it was a plastic bag or a bird or something? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that almost seems like a cop out to me. Plus, birds, these people are flying planes. You would think that they have enough intelligence to be able to tell what a bird is or not.
Birds do. I mean, there's birds that have taken out, commercial jets and stuff. Like they get in the engine, and they mess it up. So obviously,
what was that movie?
I don't know,
where
but
Tom Hanks plays the guy. The bird's flying.
Castaway.
No, not Castaway.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Sullivan. Is it?
Yeah, Sullivan.
I don't know if that's the name of the movie, but
no,
I don't even think I saw it, but I know that was that guy from New York.
Movie. Oh, I gotta look this
up. So the natural atmospheric phenomena.
Sully is the movie.
Sully. There you go. That's like that. Have you seen that Curb Your Enthusiasm where Larry? He's like heroic on the plane, and he like falls. He like knocks this guy over who's making a big, commotion on the plane, and he
I don't know if I've seen that.
He's reaching down to like tie his shoe, and he accidentally trips and like knocks the guy over who was making the scene, and everybody's clapping like, "Oh, you're a hero."
Oh, maybe I have seen that.
And then later, the girl that he picks up on the plane finds out that Susie tells him that he accidentally fell and it wasn't him like tackling the guy to save everybody. It was like
it sounds like a classic adventure.
Classic
Larry.
Yeah, classic Larry. So it says the natural atmospheric phenomena includes ice crystals, moisture, thermal fluctuations that may register on the infrared and radar systems. The USG or Industrial Development Program, some UAP observations could be attributable to developments and classified programs by U.S. entities. We are unable to confirm, however, that these systems accounted for any of the UAP reports we collected. So this is saying that maybe some of these classified government programs offered up some data, or maybe some data was taken. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe they're just saying that. Foreign adversary systems. Some UAP may be technologies deployed by China, Russia, another nation, or non-governmental entity. So, who knows? I have heard some people talk about that too. Like, could it be some private company, not even like in the military industry, that's created something that maybe has something to do with something completely else that is, accounts for some of this technology? I don't know. All right, now we get to page 6. Let's see here. It says, although most of the UAP described in our data set probably remain unidentified due to limited data or challenges to collection, processing, or analysis, we require additional scientific knowledge to successfully collect on, analyze, characterize some of them. We would group such objects in this category pending scientific advances that allowed us to better understand them. The UAP task force intends to focus additional analysis on smaller number of cases where a UAP appeared to display unusual flight characteristics or signature management. So, that's the other thing, is it seems like they didn't just put this report out and like, oh, well, we don't know what's going on. It seems like they're going to create either, more organizations or an organization to look into this, more heavily and make sure that it's nothing to be worried about. So. Yeah, I mean, but you say you would hope so, but stuff like that's not a given. So that's a good thing. UAP threaten flight safety, and possibly national security. It says UAP pose a hazard to safety of flight that could pose a broader danger if some instances represent sophisticated collection against U.S. military activities by a foreign government or demonstrate a breakthrough aerospace technology by a potential adversary. Ongoing aerospace concerns. So when aviators encounter safety concerns, they're required to report these concerns. Depending on the location, volume, and behavior of hazards during the incursions on the ranges, pilots may cease their test and or training and their aircraft, which has a deterrent effect on reporting. It says the UAP task force has 11 reports of documented instances in which pilots reported near misses with a UAP. So I assume that David Fravor counts in there.
Yeah.
See here. Okay, it says,
I mean, you'd think the debriefing on his account would be 20 to 30 pages alone.
Well, I mean, again, there's 70 or 80 pages that were still classified that they didn't include into this. So, I mean, who knows? That might be in there. Potential national security challenges. We currently lack data to indicate any UAP are part of a foreign collection program or indicative of a major technological advancement by a potential adversary. We continue to monitor for evidence of such programs given the counterintelligence challenge they would pose, particularly as some of the UAP may be detected near military facilities or by aircraft carrying the USG's most advanced sensor systems. Let's see here. This part says, explaining UAP will require more analytic collection and resource investment. They're going to standardize the reporting, consolidate the data, and deepen the analysis. Let's see here. This next part's all about like the political aspects of it. It says the UAP task force has begun to develop analytical and processing workflows to ensure collection and analysis will be well informed and coordinated.
Mm-hmm.
The majority, okay, this is page 7. The majority of UAP data is from U.S. Navy reporting, but efforts are underway to standardize incident reporting across U.S. military services and other government agencies to ensure all relevant data is captured with respect to particular incidences and any U.S. activity that might be relevant. The UAP task force is currently working to acquire additional reporting, including from the U.S. Air Force, has begun receiving data from the Federal Aviation Administration. So there you go. It sounds like the FAA is now going to probably, all the pilots are going to report either people that are
Nice.
working in the towers or the actual pilots. I assume that they're going to start sending all that data their way. Although the U.S. Air Force data collection has been limited historically, the U.S. Air Force began a 6-month pilot program in November 2020 to collect in the most likely areas to encounter UAP and is evaluating how to normalize future collection, reporting, and analyze across the entire Air Force. Let's see here. The FAA captures data related to UAP during the normal course of managing air traffic operations. The FAA generally ingests this data when pilots and other airspace users report unusual or unexpected events to the FAA's air traffic organization. So that kind of answers your question about before.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. It says, in addition, the FAA continuously monitors its systems for anomalies, generating additional information that may be useful to the U.S. UAP task force. The FAA is able to isolate data of interest to the UAP task force and make it available. The FAA has a robust and effective outreach program that can help the UAP task force reach members of the aviation community to highlight the importance of reporting these UAP. So that's good. I mean, there's probably a lot of pilots that, like we were talking about the military, that just don't want to report it or don't want to get involved, or it's like a hassle or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
So it says an increase in investment in research and development. The UAP task force has indicated that additional funding for research and development could further the future study of the topics laid out in the report, such as investments should be guided by a UAP collection strategy, UAP research and development technical roadmap, and UAP program plan. So, and then page 8 and 9 are like appendixes. It's page 8. It's just like telling you like what terminologies are, like what UAP stands for.
So there's really only 6 pages of info. These guys.
Pretty much. Let me see here. Here's some more. There's some stuff on page 9. It's talks about the Senate report and accompanying the Intelligence Authorization Act for the fiscal year of 2021, provided by the Department of National Intelligence. Let's see here. It says the Senate report specifically requested that the report include, number 1, is a detailed analysis of UAP data and intelligence reporting collected or held by the Office of Naval Intelligence, including data and intelligence reporting held by the UAP task force. Number 2, detailed analysis of unidentified phenomena data collected by geospatial intelligence. B, signals intelligence. C, human intelligence. And D, measurement and signatures intelligence. Number 3, a detailed analysis of data and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which was derived from the investigations of intrusions of UAP over restricted U.S. airspace. Number 4, a detailed description of the process for ensuring a timely data collection and centralized analysis of all UAP reporting for the federal government, regardless of which service or agency acquired the information. Number 5, an indication of official accountable or of an official accountable for the process of the described paragraph 4. I don't know what the hell. Must be a typo, or I must have jot that down wrong. Let's see here. Oh, number 6, identification of potential aerospace or other threats posed by the UAP to national security, and an assessment of whether the UAP activity may be attributed to one or more foreign adversaries. Number 7, indication of any incidences or patterns that indicate a potential adversary have achieved breakthrough aerospace capabilities that could put the U.S. strategic or conventional forces at risk. Recommendations regarding increased collection of data, enhanced research and development, and additional funding and other resources. So, and that's pretty much it. that was page 9. So we just kind of went through most of it. I left a couple paragraphs that had more to do with like the politics and stuff out, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a little underwhelming, but what are you gonna do?
But again, it's
better than nothing. But
well, here's the thing: is let's say you're interested in this topic, and you're all you're all caught up on all the new stuff. Most people aren't. Like there's like politicians probably don't go home and think about this. Like the people that are you need to care about this, scientists, like mainstream scientists. These people should care maybe about that, but they're not going home and thinking about, UAPs and UFOs and stuff like that. There's probably, some, but for the most part.
You saw Musk on Rogan. He's like, there's no aliens. And he's like,
but he's not, he's more,
he's going to Mars and stuff. You would think the guy would have some kind of interest in it.
I know, but it's just, I don't know. He's got something else going on. I don't think that
he's a robot.
But I mean, but aside from him, I mean, you don't need him. You need more of like I said, like an Avi Loeb or somebody that's willing to that has some connection to academia, that has the presence and the resources to do these kinds of things and these kinds of tests.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, look, I don't know. It's just so tough because part of me, like I said, I look at what's going on like UFO Twitter and like different social media platforms that like, whether it be Facebook or whatever. And, I look at how people talk about this. I look at the things people say. I'm kind of like a watcher. Like I just watch stuff. I don't ever comment or like give my opinions on things. I just look and read and gain information. How does this person think? How does that person think? And to me, we've talked about this before, but it's like, you look at like what Carl Jung had to say about this, and like you have, people that have written books like what's her face, American Cosmic, I'm drawing a blank, Pasalka. You have these people, that are correlating these things to religion. It kind of is similar. And I wrote that blog it's on our website too, about UFOs and epistemology and like how do we know what we know. And if you look at like the evidence of things that we actually know, it's really not that much. It's just people have taken this topic and like mythologized it and basically have done what like religion, what has been done with religion.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you can look at like, even like I said, that when you look at the origins of things, you start to understand how things come about. And I've looked at so many origins of things, whether it be ancient civilizations or languages or cultures or, whatever, megalithic building, whatever it is. When you look at like how things come about, you start to get an understanding of the way things work kind of. And I just think that there is something out there. Like I mentioned before, I do believe there's something out there. I don't know what it is. I know
the truth is out there.
I know, there is something for sure out there. I don't know what it is, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know what it is. And there's a lot of people doing that, and that's fine, I guess. But then you're leading a lot of other people astray. There's a lot of people that listen to some of these podcasts where they're just saying crazy things, like insane, crazy things. And there's people that just like lap it up. Like they just love it. They want more of the crazy. And some of those people I think are even aware that it's really crazy. And it's almost like entertainment to them, which is fine. But again, like some of those people are also claiming truth or to know truth. And it's like, no, you can't claim that and believe some of those things. So belief and knowing are completely different things. Gnosis is different than believing in something. So, I mean, again, that's why we do this podcast. From the beginning, we said we want to know what the truth is. So some of our early episodes, I look back and I listen. I cringe. I'm like, this is terrible. I can't even believe I believed it.
So do some of the viewers, bro, and they throw that in the face.
I can't even believe that I even thought that, but it's like, that's how you learn and that's how you grow. But at the same time, like I said, I see a lot of people, whether they're content creators or podcasters, making the same mistakes year after year. We've been doing this now for almost 4 years. And I've seen a dramatic shift in like the quality. And there's just so many. When we started, I think there's probably 400,000 or 500,000 podcasts. I think now there's 4 million, if I'm not
Oh
mistaken.
my. Yeah, you know, it's different for normal people too, because it's like if you, let's say 10, 15 years ago, you had some ideas, you had some thoughts, now they're different. Ours are logged onto a video, so it's like they're there for us to always look and glance at. Usually for most people, their thoughts are just their thoughts, and it's just a memory to them. For
My
us, we can look back and actually see concrete evidence of us talking and believing a certain way. So you
right,
got to cut yourself a little bit of slack. I'm sure everybody's got the same kind
right.
of progression in their life if they're the truth seekers, if you will.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I agree with that. I know. I mean, I know that. But what it comes down to is, it seems like if you're gonna do this, like do podcasts. If you're creative and you want to get the stuff out there, do it. That's awesome. I listen to a lot of podcasts, so it's like if you can create a good one or have a good topic or have a good angle on something, by all means do it. I'm just saying, like, there's people out there that are just doing the same thing they've been doing 10 years ago, and it's just they make money or they have crazy people believe the crazy things that they say, and that's fine. But our podcast is always about looking for truth or objective truth. Does that even exist? And I think that we've always been open and honest with people. Like early on, like we just said, we believed a lot crazier stuff. Now, I've read all of Plato's dialogues. I went through all like the origins of philosophy and metaphysics, and I've been educating myself as we've been doing this podcast through reading. And I don't think a lot of people read. They just either listen to people talk or they watch YouTube videos or whatever. And I think that that's where most of this information's coming from. But for true knowledge, you need to like cross-reference. You need to read a bunch of different sources. Like you can't just look at like one or two things or listen to one person and be like, that's the truth.
And that's our new T-shirt. I don't think a lot of people read. Slap it on the back, baby. It's true though, because you talk to a lot of people, and it's just like, well, why do you believe that? And they go, that's just the way it is. But there's no basis for their argument, really. But that's the society that you live in.
Right. Somebody mentioned, I said like when I say crazy, I'm talking about the people that are like, these aliens come from this planet, and I know it because
the Pleiades.
Yeah, no, none of that. That's not.
It's fun, but science fiction has always been fun.
Right.
That's why we're drawn to shows.
And people
like
are like,
Star
"Oh, look at
Trek
all
or
these
Star Wars
ancient
and stuff like that."
civilizations that correlate to the Pleiades." Well, guess what? Because it's one of the more visible things from the night sky, and back in the ancient times, when there wasn't all this light pollution, it was probably even way more visible. So yeah, there's things connected to Orion's belt. There's things connected to the Pleiades. There's all these different things. That doesn't mean that that's connected to some intelligence coming from, so it's stuff like that. Like, and the other thing is there are good podcasts that also have crazy people on occasionally too, that like these, like, it's just, I think there's only like, if you have a UFO podcast, there's only so many podcasts you can do with like credible, reasonable, well thought out, people that are like philosophical about this. There's only so many of those.
It's fun to have the other peeps, though. That's the stuff that stirs.
Right.
That stirs it.
But there's only so many of those you can do. So that's what I'm saying is like some of these podcasts that do like 100 podcasts a year. I don't know if that many, but whatever. Those some of those podcasts are having absolutely crazy people on because there's only so many people that they could have on. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, that goes for other topics, too. There's a lot of spirituality ones that are like that. There's a lot of, I mean, you name it. I could go through the list. And I like some crazy, like, if I'm going to listen to that, I'd rather listen to, like, a Duncan Trussell, like the Duncan Trussell podcast, because he gets weird with stuff, but at least I know that, like,
he knows he's getting weird.
Yeah, exactly. And it's fun.
Embraces the weirdness.
Yeah,
weirdness.
Yeah. So it's like, that's fine, if you're going to say that ahead of time, but it's the people that claim truth or like have the answers, and it just, I don't know. I really don't, I don't know. But again, my whole point with all this stuff is just to let's look at all this stuff objectively. Stop, worrying about, I mean, it is what it is. People that, it's hard for me to think about, but like, people that are on Twitter all day every day talking about the UFO stuff. I get it. There's a lot of like activist people that are trying to get more people, in the mix and whatever, and that's great. But you're getting them in the mix about a topic that we don't know exactly what's going on. So, to claim, I think it's easy to say, oh, get into this, it's aliens, or look at these, but it's harder to be like, this is a very complicated subject. There's lots of people that see weird things. There's no explanation for them, but it's also probably not ours. So it's just like this weird thing that I think that you see a lot of people using aliens as like the, to not necessarily lure people into the topic, but, it's a little bit more, juicy,
Absolutely. But it's a dance. You got to have excitement with the boring.
Yeah. And again, like I said, it's I hate because I like having fun, like I like talking. Right. You and I have fun all the time when we talk about this stuff. Like the first time we pondered this, I think we smoked a little joint, down by the river when we were freshmen in high school or something like that on one of the camping trips we went on, and we were discussing panspermia, and like stuff. Crazy stuff. Like, what were we, 13, 14?
We didn't even know.
We're crazy. It was like just 12, 13 years old. Like there wasn't anything on TV at the time. Like we didn't see, these were just things that we were pondering. And like we had like our cousin Bob, maybe, who was in like Desert Storm, and he was telling us about like weird stuff and his weird theories and stuff like that. So it's like,
right.
That's kind of how we got into this stuff. It wasn't like a recent thing. Like we've been talking about this for a long time, and I just think that we need to take a more analytical, scientific approach if you really want to figure out what's going on. If you don't and you just want to make money or speculate or whatever, fine, do whatever you got to do. But if you're really after trying to figure out what's going on, I think you really have to go through the motions. You can't just half-ass this. You have to really look at all the data, cross-reference stuff. How credible are the people talking about this? That kind of stuff.
I agree.
Yeah, somebody mentioned credible, reasonable UFO reporters equals oxymoron. Yeah, I mean, it's
oxymoron.
And again, I've seen weird stuff. I saw an orange orb with my dad last year on his birthday, like in his backyard. It was bizarre, and we just kept saying how bizarre it was. It was just one of those like weird. This thing just like took off before I could even pull up my phone. I was going to pull up the star chart, which again, I'll mention this again. It was weird. My first thought was, let me pull out a star chart and make sure it's not a star, as opposed to let me pull out my camera and take a picture of this thing. It didn't matter.
Yeah, well, I saw some weird stuff when I was going to hunt the comet, but I'm not going to make any accusations.
Well, yeah, when you were on that Neowise photography thing that you did for our channel, you caught some weirds. I did see some like weird fluttering lights that were in the background.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, who knows? Anyways, but yeah, so that's the report.
Hopefully we'll have another one soon that we can
and I'm back. I'm back in action. I'll start booking guests and stuff now that I've at least gotten the pain manageable, where I can sit here for a couple hours and do this.
Mm-hmm.
So
we got to get working on our secret project as well. I'm pumped up for that. And,
we've been working on a secret project. I forgot about that. It has to do with this topic. There'll be more to come out in due time once we get a few more sections done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much it. Thanks everybody, and like I said, thanks to the people that have been supporting the show. Thank you to our Patreon members. And again, shout out to Sandy and Chris and Sean and Cole and everybody that's reached out for some kind words when I wasn't feeling good here the last month, and I appreciate that. So
yeah, we got ourselves a really nice community we've built here, so we appreciate that. And don't forget to smash that like button. I forgot to chime in here.
Yeah, that'll be your job going forward. I'll never remember that.
I don't want to. I feel bad about it. I remember it, but it's like
I could add a little graphic in the beginning that does that if we want.
We'll get graphic. All right. No, but I don't want to be like every other YouTuber. But at the same time, it really does help us if you smash the like. It gets we got to tickle the algorithm in some which way. But
Yeah.
you know, it is what it is.
Well, the other thing is we came back. We haven't done this in 4 weeks, and I came
Right.
back
So we're
and
at
like,
the bottom of the barrel.
and I just plugged in my DSLR, and like I need a new power adapter for that. I like stuff like that. It's just like, can we catch a break here? Really,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So.
All right, brother.
Anyways,
well, I
but-
hope you feel good, better. I'll send you the good, positive vibes, and we'll get back into the swing of things here.
All right. Well, yeah. Again, thanks everybody, and and check out our Patreon. Check out our website. We love everybody. Stay safe out there, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
Peace.